Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Ruth Millage, a member of our Board of Trustees, and I welcome you to this Sunday service at UU Church of Columbia. I'm an elderly, pale-skinned woman. I'm wearing burgundy glasses, a burgundy turtleneck, and black crutches. We're a congregation of many beliefs, striving together to embody courageous love, radical welcome, and a deep connection. And we're so glad you're here. Welcome. We offer a live stream of our services and extend a warm welcome to those of you joining online. We strive to make our worship accessible, and you can find an accessible order of service with hymn lyrics included at our homepage, uucomo.org. There are listening assistance devices with our ushers near the entrance to the sanctuary. And if you're on Zoom, you can click the CC button for subtitles. For those of you with us in person, masks are now welcome, celebrated, and optional. We'd like to particularly welcome any visitors among us this morning and invite you to find our Visitor Connect book in the greeting area or in the chat, or to use the QR code in your order of service. We'd love to stay in touch with you. Children and babies are always welcome in worship, and we also have a lively children's program for all ages and nursery care for our youngest ones in the lower level. Children will be invited to a Sunday school class after our centering and time of embodied prayer. Now, let us settle into this time and place with special music from Violet von der Haar.
Good morning. I'm a pale-skinned woman wearing a white long sweater with a burnt orange scarf, and my hair is in a chin-length bob today, brownish, blondish, faded. I don't know what color it is really, and I've got some sparkling earrings. All right, I'm going to be singing a couple songs today that I wrote during my songwriting challenge last year, and the song is called Next to Me. Well, it's a long road, but the journey is brief, and who travels with you can bring some relief to the heartache and the pain and the woes that we feel. So why go it alone when together we can heal? Thanks for still being here after all this time, for listening to me and for being so kind. So many places that you could be, and here you are right next to me. What good is living if you do it alone? What good is singing if no one else sings along? If we give what we've got, we share what we have, it returns back to us a kind of love that can't be bought. So thanks for still being here after all this time, for listening to me and for being so kind. So many places that you could be, but here you are right next to me. And we need each other more than we know to walk down this path that'll leave us home. If life is so much sweeter when you are here. Yes, life is much sweeter with you near. So thanks for still being here after all this time, for listening to me and for being so kind. So many places that you could be, but here you are right next to me. Yes, here you are listening to me. Yes, here you are right next to me.
Thank you, Violet. Good morning. I am George Grimm-Howell, your intern minister. I am a pale-skinned, middle-aged plus man with very little hair. Today I'm wearing a blue and tan shirt with a light brown blazer over it. And I'm also wearing my rainbow bracelet from our Pride Fest last September. It says, UU Church of Columbia, our faith is love. I will wear it always. Our opening words this morning are from Chris Rothbauer. We set aside an hour each week to worship the holy, to come together as a community, and to refresh our souls. Let us consecrate this hour with the spirit of devotion and an attitude of reverence. And may we find in this sacred hour the grace we need to love ourselves, our beloved community, and our world. Come, let us make meaning together.
Good morning. I am Jeff Ordway. My pronouns are he and him. I am a very, very close to being 60-year-old man with pale skin, short hair thinning on top, a short cropped full beard with a lot more gray in it than I would like to actually admit. Today I'm wearing a gray sweater with a light gray blazer over it. We now kindle our chalice flame to represent the cup of community that holds us and the inextinguishable flame of spirit that unites us. As we light our chalice, will you please join me in the words of affirmation that are printed in your service, in our order of service? Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Good morning. I am Jamila Batchelder, the Director of Religious Education here. I am a middle-aged white woman with lots of dark blonde hair, wearing a black sweater and a red scarf and glasses, and I use she, her pronouns. So this month, we are focusing on tenderness, and our centering is focusing on how we all bring our tenderest selves to church and how we all care for each other's tenderest selves. So take a deep breath and imagine your tenderest self held cupped in your hand, trembling and vulnerable, soft and seeking, weary and hopeful, achy-hearted, needing, brave, and also afraid. Can you let that tenderest self out of the safety of your self in search of connection with something more? To be seen and held and loved. Can you open your heart and open your hand and release it? Or even only a part of it, if that's all you can do today, into this space here together, to find all those other tenderest selves wanting to be seen and held and loved. And now, with your other hand, can you gather up that tenderness of others, floating all around us? How soft and gentle and tender can you be with it? What words of reassurance can you whisper to it? Try to really feel what has been entrusted to you. What a sacred honor. And can you now join me in singing to these tenderest selves our centering hymn?
I am sending you alive to heal you, to hold you. I am sending you alive to hold you in love. I am sending you alive to heal you, to hold you. I am sending you light to hold you in love. I am sending you light to heal you, to hold you. I am sending you light to hold you in love. One more time. I am sending you light to heal you, to hold you. I am sending you light to hold you in love.
Now, during a moment of contemplative music, I invite you into our weekly ritual of stones and water. Those of you who are with us online are also invited into a time of contemplation, and you may wish to share your joy or sorrow in the chat to be spoken aloud during our time of prayer. For those here in the sanctuary, you are welcome to come forward and take a stone representing any of the hopes and fears that you bring with you this morning. Then drop that stone into the water, which represents the embrace of our community. Those of you in person who wish to have your joy or sorrow spoken aloud may write it on a slip of paper at the back table to be shared during our time of prayer. Please join me. Our children are now invited to join their teachers at the back of the sanctuary to go to Sunday school, as our congregation joins in singing them off to their classes.
I'm the Reverend Molly Hausch-Gordon, the minister of this congregation. I'm so happy to see so many of you gathered here today for the last Sunday morning sermon of our beloved intern minister, George Grimm-Howell. And I'm delighted to share a moment of joys and sorrows and prayer with you this morning. I am a white woman in the last year of her 30s, wearing a maroon sweater with a very drapey collar, and I have red hair that's very long on one side and very short on the other. And I invite you now to join me in a moment of quiet, to center ourselves in the care of community, so that together we might hold the joys and sorrows and prayers of the people. For those of you who wish to respond to those joys and sorrows shared aloud, we have a custom here of an embodied response. For joys, hands wiggly in the air, and for sorrows and prayers, a hand over the heart. Let us join our hearts this morning with Tonette and Dustin in prayer and healing thoughts for Tonette's son and daughter-in-law who had a pregnancy lost at 24 weeks of gestation. We send deep love. We also send to Tonette and Dustin healing thoughts for Dustin's son, Will, whose grandfather is in the hospital and not doing well. All our love. We join our hearts with Luke and Holly Daly, who share with great joy that little baby Dax had a successful open heart surgery, had an amazing surgical and hospital team, and is recovering way better than anybody would have expected. Joyful wishes and many healing prayers as Dax continues to heal. We join our hearts with Leah, who shares happiness to be back for the winter from Minnesota. Welcome back. Glad to have you with us. We join our hearts with Joe and Donna, who are moving to Columbia. We share that joy, but we particularly share as they wish the sorrow that their kids are not approving their move. We wish for peace in the family and for an easy transition. We join our hearts with Shannon and Declan with sharing a sorrow and a prayer that Shannon's mom fell on some stairs and is having surgery next week for broken bones in her arm. We hope for a successful, full recovery. We join our hearts with Willow, Trinity, and Amy in sharing Willow's joy that Christmas is coming. We join our hearts with Marcy Brennan, who shares the sorrow for Mike Hawes, whose cancer has come out of remission. We pray healing and hope for Mike. We join our hearts with Rebecca Graves and Pac Matthews, who share joy for a lovely and joy-filled weekend with family, especially as oldest daughter and son-in-law came for an early Christmas, and for their granddaughter who is in her first Nutcracker ballet. Great joy. We also share our hearts with Pac Matthews in the joy that after 2 years of absence, the return of his sense of smell. Yay! We join our hearts with Jazz, who shares a joy and a prayer for a tentative job offer, praying that it works out, and we join you in that hope. We join our hearts with all who pray in deep concern for the people of Gaza, for their safety, in grief for all the lives lost in conflict all over the world. We join our hearts with Janice, who is so happy to get to sing with and for people she loves at the Intergenerational Rock Band Choir tonight at Blue Note. Janice shows gratitude for Compass Inc., Violetville, and Logan for the special experience of this community. Rock on, y'all. We hold in our hearts on this day all who suffer from illness. May they be well. And we join in warm wishes of light to all of our Jewish friends and neighbors who are celebrating Hanukkah this week. May it be a beautiful celebration of warmth and love. Concluding these joys and sorrows and prayers, I welcome George back to lead us in a moment of prayer and contemplation.
Is that God calling again? I invite you into a time of prayer and mindful attention as we continue to hold tightly to love and to joy and to each other. I offer these words from Melissa Jeter. We are grateful to be in the presence of one another. We are grateful for the affirmation that being together in this community brings. Let us have hearts open with humility. Let us find our way mindful that there is an abundance from which we can draw water. The peace of all peace that comes not without struggle or wrestling with the ways of scarcity and individualism in the world. Let us find ways to disrupt injustice. Let us find ways to accept one another while preserving our hearts. Let us go beyond thinking and suspend all judgment. May we be changed and held in love. May we recognize and receive grace, for none of us alone has the answer. So be it. Let us join our spirits in song as you remain seated. Our song response is number 205, Amazing Grace.
Our reading this morning is The Life, Slow and Precious. We offer gratitude to the Reverend Julian Jamaica Soto for these words of inspiration. It is a truth, though it may not always feel like one, that you are worth more than the things that you do. That your being a worthy human being lives in a different domain than all of your failures, but also the collected sum of your successes. Combining your worth with the results is something like using the sheet music for Beethoven's Fifth Symphony to make an apple pie or build a doghouse. There is no way for the question to resolve in the final answer. By virtue of being alive, you matter. And you cannot be more deserving of dignity, of respect, of love. Sometimes people make mistakes, but even that cannot change that you are meant to be festooned with celebration of your humanity. If your progress is slow, your movements small, remember that you don't have to compete for compassion. You don't have to compare what you can observe of another's life to make sure that you measure up. You are definitely yourself. What is slow is also valuable. Some of the oldest seeds ever sprouted are a narrow-leafed campion that grew even though the seeds were 32,000 years old, more or less. They had to survive to be able to bloom, encased in ice, thawed, then brought to light. The most important thing is that you make it. No matter how imperceptible the movement, no matter how long it takes to reach the best version of who you are meant to be, you are irreplaceable. You are meant to live.
When the time comes for you, then I'll be by your side. And when you try, but you can't get through, just give it a little more time. Just give it time. Give it time. When everything hurts and you forget how it works, just give it a little more time. And if you stray too far from your heart, then I will remind you that each rising day is a new start, and there's nothing that you can do. Just give it time. Give it time. When everything hurts and you forget how it works, just give it a little more time. When everything hurts and you forget how it works, just give it a little more time.
Thank you once again. Dear ones, it is good to be with you today, and there's no place I'd rather be. My heart is overflowing with tender gratitude, with wide-eyed astonishment at what we have done here together in this intern ministry. I marvel at how I've grown from that scared guy 16 months ago who couldn't pronounce anyone's names correctly to a more wholehearted, confident minister who still can't pronounce everyone's name correctly. Working on that. You have borne witness to my formation, which will remain a work in progress. You have held me through my mistakes and my meanderings. And most of all, throughout all of it, you have consistently shown me a deep and tender grace. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved an intern like me. Grace. What is this thing? Is it forgiveness? Is it redemption? Is it love? Is it Christian? Grace isn't the easiest thing to define, but we know what it feels like. It sometimes feels more like a place, that tender place where we feel like we're held at the center of the universe, connected to the whole of everything, feeling like we belong. It's a fulfillment of our innate desire for relationship, but not any relationship. Relationships, after all, can be codependent or transactional. It's a desire for a relationship in which we can reveal our true selves to each other, where we can feel safe and be brave and vulnerable. A place where we can drink deeply of each other's stories and worries and outrages, where we can lightly touch each other's wounds and say, "Me too." As theologian Paul Tillich once said, grace is an exhortation to accept that we are accepted. But learning to accept grace is not an easy thing. There are always doubts and fears that sneak in to steal our confidence and to whisper to us of our own inadequacy. I know that feeling all too well, as I've wrestled with my imposter syndrome, and I'm sure I'm not alone. Nursing doubts reminds me of the story of a patient my cohort group encountered during my chaplaincy training. When discussing our counselees, we always use a fictitious name, of course, to protect their privacy. So we named her Grace. Grace was confined to a hospital bed, nearing the end of her life. She asked to see a chaplain, desperate to relieve an ache in her heart. It was the ache of worry and doubt. You see, Grace had been raised as Eastern Orthodox, the longtime tradition of her family for generations. But later in life, like so many of us, she chose a new religious family, a new faith tradition, in her case, among evangelical Christians. And as Grace prepared to meet her Maker, there was one burning question that tormented her. Am I saved? Will I go to heaven? Will I be rejected because I didn't do it right? The chaplain, with her strong Universalist faith, bent down and scooped Grace up spiritually, held her tight, and said that God was good and loved all God's children, that she was always saved, always loved, always held in care. And Grace's reply, is it really that simple? This is ultimate grace, one that redeems us, accepts us without conditions. And this is why I love our faith tradition so deeply. While we may not use the word grace a lot, our tradition holds grace at its center. After all, Amazing Grace is right in the middle of our hymnal. In so many traditions, grace has been abused. It's been made into scarce goods as a tool of conformity and control. Are you saved? Have you followed the commandments? Monarchs were called Your Grace because they could bestow or withhold it. Preachers declared that grace was a transaction that could pay off the debt of our sins. But true grace isn't a title, and it can't be bought or sold or earned. It can only be accepted, like the very oxygen that we breathe. It's free. The only cost is the effort to put away your doubts, to doubt your doubts, as Brother Dawson has preached from this pulpit. To put away the lie that somehow you don't deserve grace, or the worry that you might lose it if you do it wrong. It is here in this sacred space that I too have felt this unearned grace that looked me in the eye and told me I belong. Through all the clutter of commuting and maybe relying a little too much on Zoom, you told me it was good enough, that I was good enough, that mistakes are for learning and not for judging. You taught me that we're all just feeling our way together to try to get through this messy imperfection. I once thought that messy imperfection was the enemy of good ministry. And now I've come to embrace that messy imperfection as ministry itself. It's the core of what it means to be a flawed human being. Grace gives us the space to fully be our true, imperfect selves. And more than that, grace celebrates us. Recalling the words from our reading by Reverend Soto, sometimes people make mistakes, but even that cannot change that you are meant to be festooned with celebration of your humanity. The celebration of each of our individual, vulnerable imperfections, my beloveds, is the blessed tie that binds our hearts together. As we are exploring this entire worship year, we hold each other in these precarious times, not because any of us has the answer that will fix our lives and our world, but because holding each other is the work. Holding each other is the joy. Holding each other is the point. We hold each other as we move toward dismantling systems of oppression. We hold each other as we learn how to be more accessible and welcoming. And we hold each other despite getting it wrong sometimes. We hold each other as we work out the best way to do social justice. We hold each other as we excavate the skeletons of the racist history of Columbia and Boone County. We hold each other as we explore how we can root out toxic masculinity and toxic theology. We hold each other through the chaotic Sunday school lessons about universalism that somehow turn into heart scavenger hunts instead. We hold each other as we figure out who's going to make the coffee. It's a big question. It's a big question. And you know what else? Wrestling with our imperfections is long and slow work. For me, preparation for ministry has been a lifetime-long endeavor. Each of us is a work in progress, a slow and tender unfolding. Returning to the words of Reverend Soto, what is slow is also valuable. Some of the oldest seeds ever sprouted are narrow-leaf campion that grew even though the seeds were 32,000 years old, more or less. That means I still have 31,999 more years to get it right. Stick around. I'll leave you with a gem that I picked up from a beloved seminary colleague. One day we were talking about what grace meant to us. She said she was still developing her own theology, and she couldn't quite say what grace was. But borrowing from the world of Zen Buddhism, she said she had an idea of what grace felt like. She said maybe grace was simply experiencing your true self. Maybe grace feels like discovering the face you had before you were born. Thanks to you, dear ones, I can now embrace the person I've always been. Severing the lovely ties that bind us together will be one of the hardest things I've done. UUA guidelines require that I end my pastoral relationship with all of you after December 31st. And know that wherever my ministry takes me, I will carry your hearts in my heart. Your love and your grace will light my path. I love you. Amen and blessed be. I invite you to rise or remain standing to join in our closing song, number 128, For All That Is Our Life.
The life of a congregation is always changing. Babies are born, children grow up and create new homes, beloved ones die. People come to us and stay for a while and sometimes leave, moving away geographically or spiritually. This time we knew there would be an ending right from the start. Saying goodbye is part of being a teaching congregation. 15 months ago, we welcomed our Intern Minister George Grimm-Howell to continue his learning here among us, to share his gifts with us, to minister to us and with us. George has been changed by his time here as he reflected, and we have also been changed. George has been blessed by our congregation as he shared, and George has been a blessing to us. This month, upon successful completion of his internship, we will be releasing George from his ministry with us. We celebrate and bless him as he prepares to enter his own ministry in the coming months. And so I invite you to join me in that celebration and blessing. So if you feel so moved and are able, if you could rise in body or in spirit. George, you can come over here with me. Do you, the members and friends of the UU Church of Columbia, now celebrate and bless George in his ministry, acknowledging the formation he has done among us and his readiness to serve Unitarian Universalism? If so, answer, we do. We do. And do you now, sadly but necessarily, release George from being our intern minister with your blessing for his ministry to our faith and the world that needs our care? If so, please answer, we do. We do. And do you, George, now release the UU Church of Columbia from turning to you for ministry and guidance?
I do.
So with these words, George, at the end of this month, you will be released from your internship into the wide world of ministry that we know you will bless profoundly. May you go surrounded by our love, our gratitude, and our deepest hopes for your future in this faith we share. Congregation, you may be seated. Woo! I'd like to now invite forward Georgia's intern committee to share their own celebrations and a special gift for George. And let us also thank these representatives of our community for helping in making us a teaching congregation.
I just want to thank all you all, and also Kira, who is also with us, though we don't see her the same way. George, it has been an honor and a pleasure working with you these last months, and we hope that you will accept this as a token twofold, both of our appreciation for all the work you have done in our congregation that we hope to sustain going forward, and also to mark the start of a long and meaningful ministerial career. And it's reversible. Infinitely practical. Can I put this on
Yes,
you?
please.
We love you too. That's it.
And just to describe this beautiful stole, it's on a purple base, and it has like a ribbon of rainbow looping all the way around it with a chalice up on the breast. And then when you reverse it, it is the Side with Love gold color, which is much more flattering on George than it is on some of us. And on one side, the word love is printed in a stained glass print, and on the other side, there's a stylized heart that looks much like our UUA's heart logo for our Side with Love justice work. It will be useful in worship and in protests and in all kinds of ministry circumstances for many years to come. And we celebrate you profoundly, George. Thank you.
Every week we are invited into a time of gratitude and generosity to practice our deep spiritual value of stewardship, caring for this community and all we hold dear by sharing our gifts with one another. This morning's offering will be dedicated to the work of this church. If you prefer to give online or by text, please see your order of service for details, as our usher now will move through the sanctuary and we hear more original music from our own Violet Vonderhaar.
We got no expectations and we got no rules. Just come on in and kick off your shoes. Can tell by your face that you had a long week, so pull up a chair and talk with me. Friends need no special invitation. Just come on by, call it a vacation. 'Cause when you're here, you can take a load off and we can talk until you wanna stop. And there's nothing quite like the company that you share with your chosen family. And there's nothing you could say that'll come out too strange, 'cause we're all strange here and we like it that way. A home for the misfits and the outcasts. When you're here, your family and the love will always last. 'Cause friends need no special invitation. Just come on by, call it a vacation. 'Cause when you're here, we can take a load off and you can talk until you wanna stop. And there's nothing quite like the company that you share with your chosen family. And if the world gets too much to bear, well, I'll be there. Yes, I'll be there. And if the weight is too much to hold, just come on home and we can share the load. Yeah, we can share the load. And there's food on the table, have as much as you like. You're always welcome here, come day or night. If you feel like you're not gonna make it through, there'll be arms outstretched here waiting for you. 'Cause friends need no special invitation. Just come on by, call it a vacation. 'Cause when you're here, you can take a load off and we can talk until you wanna stop. And there's nothing quite like the company. Yeah, there's nothing quite like the company. Yeah, there's nothing quite like the company that you share with your chosen family.
From this ground, let us sow mercy, justice, and compassion. Let us offer our stories to provide our staples of wisdom, and when we do, let us create and experience the presence and affirmation that allows us to connect with our theological imaginations, so that the harvest of our faith will be abundant grace. I invite you to join hands and hearts in our sung benediction.